This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 69 of the 1001 Movies podcast, based on the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. This week, I'll be talking about Cave of Forgotten Dreams, the 2010 documentary directed by Werner Herzog.
We are working to create new understanding of the cave through that precision, through scientific methods, but that's not, I think, the main goal. The main goal is to create stories about what could have happened in that cave during the past.
It is like you are creating the phone directory of Manhattan, 4 million precise entries, but do they dream? Do they cry at night? What are their hopes? What are their families? You will never know from the phone directory.
Definitely, we will never know because past is definitely lost. We will never reconstruct the past. We can only create a representation of what exists now, today.
When one thinks of Werner Herzog, undoubtedly films like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, Strozek, Nosferatu, Phantom of the Night, and Fitzcarraldo come to mind, and indeed these are all subjects for future episodes. But Herzog's work as a documentary filmmaker is known mostly by those who are Herzog fans, or fans of documentary cinema in general. His most popular documentary, at least to me before seeing the subject of this episode, was 2005's Grizzly Man, documenting the final days of grizzly bear activists Timothy Treadwell and Amy Huguenard, who took extensive footage of their interaction with a family of bears in Alaska. The film ends tragically, with both of them being mauled and killed off-screen, the camera sitting innocently on its tripod and filming an empty campground. I have never seen Grizzly Man, and its final outcome is somewhat notorious, and this could hardly be considered a spoiler, but I wondered if Herzog was as intense a filmmaker to tackle that subject. What others did he film? Well, there's Encounters at the End of the World, which took him to Antarctica. Little Dieter Needs to Fly, about an American pilot during the Vietnam War, and finally Cave of Forgotten Dreams, in which Herzog and his crew explore the beauty and history of 32,000-year-old cave drawings found in the Chauvet Cave in the south of France. Herzog's fascination with cave drawings harkens back to when he was 12 years old in Munich, and he spotted a book in a bookseller's window with a prehistoric painting of a horse. He became obsessed about the book, and, perhaps thinking it was the only copy in existence, allegedly took a job just to make money to buy the book. Since then, all things prehistoric, artistic, and eerily beautiful have fascinated him, and it's really no wonder he decided to make a film about desolate Antarctica, not to mention these 32,000-year-old cave drawings that had only been found in 1994. If anyone knows anything about the French, it's that they would probably frown upon a German filmmaker making a movie about one of their own discoveries. But Herzog found it remarkably easy to get along with the French Minister of Culture, who had seen most of his movies, enjoyed them, and wasted no time in telling Herzog all about it. The necessary permits were granted, but with certain conditions. The crew was only allowed to film for 6 days for 4 hours each, and of course, they had to limit their traversing throughout the cave to the metal walkway previously erected by the scientists. There were incidents of tourists' breath ruining similar works of art elsewhere in France and in Spain, so even the scientists themselves limited the time spent within the caves. Herzog claimed that not even sneezing was allowed, although he never explains what one was to do if one felt a sneeze coming on. Herzog is not a fan of 3D film. It has, of course, been reserved almost exclusively for the budgets of Hollywood blockbusters, but after being allowed to visit the cave for an hour 2 months before filming began, the only time during pre-production he was allowed to see it in person, he knew that the film should be in 3D. Some of the art lent itself to the many depressions and formations that the rocks formed, such as the way the head of a bison appeared on an outcropping of rock. His wish was for audiences to come away as though they had actually been in the cave, rather than as though they had just seen a movie about it. The use of 3D cameras, of course, made Herzog's crew of 3 even more cumbersome as they made the film. Cave of Forgotten Dreams was a critical success, earning a number of nominations and awards at several film festivals and critics' circles. Even though it is allegedly the highest-grossing documentary in the United States in 2011, it somehow has disappeared into the zeitgeist, currently finding itself among the mediocre crime documentaries and films about the dangers of fast food on Netflix. What did I think of Cave of Forgotten Dreams? I have a theory about good documentaries. If, for whatever reason, you find yourself watching, say, a film about the rise and fall of the VHS industry, a pretty mundane topic and one that was covered in the excellent 2013 documentary Rewind This, and yet you find yourself enamored by the topic 30 minutes in, then the film is good. And if you find yourself hungry for more as the closing credits roll, then the filmmakers have succeeded brilliantly. Such is the case with Cave of Forgotten Dreams. The topic of ancient cave paintings, for me, should be relegated to late-night PBS specials. Yet, this pretty much had me about 5 minutes in. It is beautiful. The film opens with a sweeping aerial shot of a beautiful wooden gully in France, and the voiceover, Herzog himself, informs us that the Chauvet Cave was hidden for 32,000 years by a rock slide in this very cavern until its discovery in 1994. What follows is a film that is part art film and part documentary, with sweeping camera shots of the interior that match the opening shot in scope despite the small confines of the cave. We listen in awe as each of the geologists, archaeologists, and anthropologists gives their own take on what happened in the cave so long ago. The bones of cave bears can be found littered about, but the non-existence of human bones seems to indicate this place was used as a place of ceremony or a gallery rather than a home. Sometimes, very subtly, Herzog lingers on the scientists themselves with curiosity, such as a geologist and former circus juggler who explains that one should spend time away from the paintings and think about them before drawing any conclusions, a statement which draws respect from Herzog, not as a statement from a scientist with an objective goal, but also as someone with imagination like himself. I have long despised the medium of 3D movies, sometimes even choosing a different movie at the local multiplex after my first choice was available in 3D only. In this film, however, I can certainly see how 3D is an asset, and envy those with a 3D television that can experience it while the rest of us get to see it on Netflix or on Blu-ray. This in no way detracts from the experience itself, as none of the images seem to be in your face like the effects in so many other 3D pictures, so that a viewer seeing it in typical old 2D probably won't even know what he's missing. If my discussion of this film seems particularly short, it's simply because it's more of an experience than following a story from beginning to end, not to mention all of the knowledge imparted along the way. In the film's final moments, Herzog's camera wavers unblinkingly on each of the paintings, giving us one final chance to gaze upon them before the movie ends and the cave is literally closed off forever to the public eye, the subject of study of a group of special scientists for the years to come. Special mention should be made of the movie's postscript, which introduces us to a massive greenhouse fed by water used to cool a nearby nuclear power plant. Within the greenhouse, alligators, not crocodiles as Herzog mistakenly but innocuously tells us, thrive. and a special breed of albino alligator is grown, presumably a byproduct of the radioactivity. This is, I think, the moment when Herzog asks us to put ourselves in the shoes of archaeologists 32,000 years from today. What will they think of the Chauvet Cave? Will they think of the artistic creations made by modern man, which may seem like a lot right now, but in the broad timeline of humankind isn't much, assuming we thrive that much longer? Will humankind become like the albino alligators and change so much by then that today's art will be unrecognizable? In short, I think it's a total mindfuck, but knowing Werner Herzog, that's probably what he intended. That's all I have to say about Cave of Forgotten Dreams. Tune in next week when I talk about 1981's Diva, directed by Jean-Jacques Benex. In the meantime, feel free to email me with any comments or questions at 1001moviespodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter at 1001moviespc, and look for the podcast's Facebook page. Until next time, happy viewing.